Hello and welcome to another standard video. Today we're checking out this monogreen Diligent Zookeeper deck, which was originally an idea submitted by one of my supporters on Patreon. If you're at the Mythic tier or above, once each month you can send me a new deck list for me to take a look at, maybe give some feedback on how to improve it. And it started out as a green-white Zookeeper deck, but I ended up going for a monogreen build instead, which proved to be a little bit more consistent, even though we do miss out on some nice one-drops that have several types, because Zookeeper cares about having creatures, non-human specifically, that have multiple creature types. So changelings sadly don't count, since those are also human, so they would not get pumped by the Zookeeper, but everything else is fair game. And then we get +1/+1 for each one of those types, and every creature in this deck has at least 2 types, so they'll get at least +2/+2 from the Zookeeper. Even have Sentinel of the Nameless City as a Merfolk, a Warrior Scout, so that will get +3/+3, turning this 3/4 into, you guessed it, a 6/7 with Vigilance. That also gets to make a map token when it enters or attacks. The map token's a great way to keep pumping up our creatures, and they also help with the Gene Pollinator, which can now maybe tap a map token to make a man of any color. Pollinator having 2 types, of course. Llanowar Elves, another excellent mana creature, which naturally leads to Badger Mole Cub if you're playing Standard these days, so that's still good for 2 types, so there's still plenty of synergy. Leyline Weaver, another mana creature that's excellent alongside Badger Mole Cub, and also very good with the Zookeeper, getting +2/+2, grows it up to a 4/4, and if we cast a 4-drop we get to immediately untap it, so it can still attack on that very same turn. And then we also have a bit of a tutor package with 2 copies of Formidable Speaker, an Elf Druid, still good for 2 types, and then the full set of Nature's Rhythm, where we can search up a creature with mana value X or less and put it straight onto the battlefield. So initially we'll often get a Badger Mole Cub for X = 2, and then once we have the mana we can cast it for X = 4 to either find Zookeeper or perhaps an Ouroboros. As a plant worm it gets +2/+2 from Zookeeper, and now as a 3/5 it can immediately put 3 +1 counters on every single creature we control, so that can also get out of hand very quickly. And then harmonizing Nature's Rhythm is also a piece of cake with a Zookeeper in play, as we'll have some very large creatures that we can tap. And then we also have a few silver bullets that we can maybe search up with our various tutor effects in specific matchups, with Sentinel of the Lost Lore being very effective against any graveyard strategies. When it enters we can exile target player's graveyard, and as an Elf Knight it's still pretty decent with the Zookeeper. Same with a Keen-Eyed Curator. If we want a slower approach to exiling a graveyard, then we can get the Raccoon Scout instead. And then we also have a Reclamation Sage to blow up artifacts or enchantments. Of course, these silver bullets are very adaptable to a specific metagame, so we can always change those up pretty easily. And then our mana base is at least pretty streamlined with 19 forests, and then Basing Say, giving us a little bit more staying power against control decks. Being able to Earthbend onto our lands can be a useful late game mana sink as well. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the play with a double Badger Mole opener, although awkwardly drew both of our graveyard hate options. So best case scenario we're facing a graveyard deck, otherwise we need to hope to top deck one of our 4-drops. And Stormchaser's Talent does not point towards a graveyard deck as we draw a 3rd Badger Mole. Alright. We'll see how this plays out. So it could be a Temur Lessons deck, could be a Temur Otter deck, not quite sure. Actually don't hate trading for the Otter given my hand, although next turn I can also just play double Cub, and then we won't have any mana problems. Alright, Formidable Speaker is excellent, so that will give us access to a 4-mana creature, whether it's Ouroboros or something else. For now, can't go wrong with Cub. Into another Cub. And this land now taps for 4 mana. So I can go Speaker, discard Sentinel. Do not have Craterhoof Behemoth, which obviously would have been preferable. So then Zookeeper versus Ouroboros. I think I still prefer Ouroboros here. And then play Curator. May as well attack for 2. So it's turn 3 and I've played my entire hand out. Hopefully we won't regret it. Opponent is playing red and taps out for stock up. So at least they won't have removal up for Ouroboros. And Nature's Rhythm was another awesome draw. So now I get to play Ouroboros. Rhythm gets Zookeeper. And I could Nature's Rhythm again if I really wanted to. For 4. Get another Ouroboros. Go to attackers. And smash. And even if they double chump, they're still taking lethal. So yeah, that was turn 4 without a Crater Hoof. Not bad. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a very promising hand. Got both Zookeeper and Ouroboros, the Llanowar Elves Badger Mole opener. Best case, draw another 2-drop we can cast next turn. Opponent is blue-white. So if they're on control, we could still be in a bit of trouble. Against the artifact deck, we did happen to draw a Reclamation Sage. Alright, opponent's got a counterspell up. I guess we'll give him a Zookeeper for starters. And then Elf has 2 types, so would hit a little bit harder than the land. Yep. Seam Rip the Badger Mole. Now we have to decide between Zookeeper or Ouroboros. Guess we'll make it an Ouroboros. And then next turn, Zookeeper represents a lot of extra counters, but now we also have to be afraid of a board wipe. So it looks like next turn they'll have something like an Ultima. Think I can still try the Zookeeper, since that would represent, let's see, Ouroboros goes up to 4 power, so then 4 counters on each creature. So then this is attacking for 8, 16. So this could be a lethal attack if they don't have a counter spell. Opponent did have the counter, so if they now also have the sweeper, we're going to be pretty sad. Passing Say does give us a useful tool against control. Alright, opponent's casting a stock up, so they did not have the board wipe in hand. So now we might be okay. And yeah, opponent scoops it up, I'll take it. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. Our hand's a little clunky, but we do have a Badger Mole to help. I'll try it. Ideally find another Mana Elf. Or another Badger Mole. Opponent does have Llanowar Elves. Well, I got my wish. So next turn I can go Badger Mole into a 3-drop. A bird can copy Badger Mole if they have a Mockingbird in hand. So they get to go Badger Mole into Mockingbird, perhaps. Alright, so I thought I was lucky with my Badger Mole, but our opponent now with Llanowar Elves into double Badger Mole. Yeah, let's see here. Well, still gonna try this. And then we have 4 mana. Good Rhythm for 2. And get another Badger Mole. Might still be the best play we have. The more Badger Moles the better, I guess. Although, Leyline Weaver's not bad either. Although I don't actually have any 4-drops besides Nature's Rhythm to untap it. Yeah, I think Badger Mole's still better. Alright, let's see what happens. Can I trade for their cub? I guess so. Size makes sense. Maybe looking for a finisher. The Earth King. So our opponent's also off the beaten path a little bit. And Enduring Vitality. Alright. So what's next? Now all their creatures can tap for 3 mana as well with the Vitality. So plenty of mana to go around. So what's the best I can do here? Speaker gets Ouroboros and get my Zookeeper. So first maybe cast a Zookeeper, which I can tap for Nature's Rhythm to get Ouroboros. So everyone gets 3+1 counters. Unless they have the counter spell to stop the trigger, which they might. Alright, just a Drowner. And then attack. If their last card is a Crater Hoof or a Tutor effect, we're still dead. Spyglass, alright, so we might be safe. Opponent attacks all out. And Drowner, I guess, cannot activate at the moment, or can it? I guess it still makes mana. So yeah, they can still use the Drowner to get rid of Ouroboros, but we can tutor up another copy. And they did get us down to 4. So wait, they did not use Drowner to shuffle. Don't know if that was intentional, but yeah, either way, we should have it covered here. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a very nice hand. Elves into Badger Mole, and then we've got our 2 4-drops that we want to combine. Turn 2 Sentinels, not bad either. There might be matchups where it's better. Turn 1 Swamp. They might have an answer. If it's a discard spell, then at least we would still have a fine play. Well, drawing the Badger Mole makes this pretty trivial. Badger Mole into Badger Mole. And then next turn, I can cast both 4-drops. Pylons can maybe grow the Moonshadow, mills a color. So it might be mono black. Okay, so Zookeeper into Ouroboros. One of those 2 might get removed. Yeah, maybe I should start with a Sentinel, just to bait out a removal spell, since it's pretty likely that they have one here. Alternatively, I can still make them take out Ouroboros, and then Zookeeper's still great. Yeah, I'll just go for it. We'll see what happens. Do I get to trigger? I doubt it. Yeah, Bitter Triumph, discard Bloodghast. But I'll still get to attack for 8. If I went for Sentinel, then they maybe take out the Zookeeper. So, either way, let's see if they have a second answer lined up. Opponent might be playing the Twilight Diviner to combo with Bloodghast and Timeline Color to get a copy when they return from the graveyard. And Gorehound can also enable Moonshadow. Does not look like they have a clean answer to the Zookeeper. This cannot make black mana anymore. And then, do I care to block? Would grow Moonshadow. I'll take it. Okay, so can still play Sentinel. Explore onto the Zookeeper. And then I could still use Basing Say to grow the forest. And our opponent scoops it up. Awesome. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw with a functional hand, still maybe lacking some of our more exciting 4-drops. Up against red aggro. So, should be a matchup where being monocolored has its advantages, since we're not taking a bunch of damage off our mana base. And we can present some large creatures, but we are weak to something like Sheltered by Ghosts. For now, I like Sentinel. Blocks pretty well. Opponent plots a Slick Shot. Okay, so no attacks this turn besides Bastronauts. And Speaker could maybe tutor up one of our 4-drops. So Sentinel can attack. Play Speaker, can still play Pollinator. Or if we're afraid of the Slick Shot, we could also get Weaver down. And then Curator's not a bad blocker either. So that's not a terrible plan. Although at 2 toughness, they're pretty likely to take out the Weaver anyways. So then I might be better off getting my Zookeeper. Discarding maybe the Curator at this point. Could still see the Reach being useful. Pollinator is also pretty synergistic with map tokens, which we can tap to make a mana. Alright, Slick Shot, 2 cards in hand. And a big attack. Bastronaut now has double strike as well. So if they have 2 non-creature spells to pump the Challenger, I could get punished for trying to single block it with a Sentinel. If they pump this twice, it still only gets to 3 power. So I guess double block here seems reasonable. If they pump Pirate Claw, Speaker still survives, and here they would need something pretty special to not lose the Bastronauts. Yeah, this seems fine to me. And this way I don't get punished if they have 2 ways to trigger prowess. Alright, Boros Charm goes face. If they have another one, I'm dead. They had another one. Alright, GG's. It's too bad. So then blocking Challenger would have worked out a little bit better. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a functional hand. Badger Mole and Weaver play well with Nature's Rhythm. Can maybe untap the Weaver, still tap it for 2 mana afterwards. Facing black-green with a Moonshadow. Start with the Weaver. Ideally draw land next turn, so we can go Cub and still have 4 mana. Might be Junt Delirium. Turn to Wicker Folk. Alright, so if I go Cub, I can't really do anything else. So maybe we prefer Sentinel. Has a decent block on the Wicker Folk for now. Another one. They might have a Violent Urge to pump it up. Yeah, so then I'm not gonna have a good block after all. Land was useful. Now I get to play Zookeeper. Still untap the Weaver. Attack for 6. And have some pretty beefy blockers back as well. Think that'll be it. Opponent still sending. Yeah, I don't think they have ways to remove the Zookeeper necessarily. And I can afford to take the hit from Wicker Folk. Nameless Inversion can maybe take out Badger Mole, that's fine. And yeah, opponent scoops it up, awesome. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We have double Elves into Zookeeper, a bunch of lanes. Yeah, I mean, if we draw a couple creatures, we might be okay. But we could use some help off the top. Turn 1 Swamp. Elves down. Doesn't hurt our curve too much. It is a Dimir. Yeah, this is probably one of our tougher matchups. Can expect a lot of interaction. And then our opponent's got card advantage, whereas we don't. Although I'm happy to see them use a bunch of removal on some of our weaker cards. And Badger Mole was a nice top deck. Nature's Rhythm would be a great draw as a mana sink. Hex the Cub, that's fine. And there's Nature's Rhythm. So 3, 4, 5. Cannot quite Rhythm for Ouroboros here, but I can Rhythm for Badger Mole. Hit for 7, and then next turn we'll have plenty of mana to make use of our Harmonize. Opponent's gonna tap out for stock up, so yeah, they're super dead here. But yeah, Rhythm for Ouroboros would have definitely pushed us over the top. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw with functional hand. Turn 1 Elves, maybe turn 2 Sentinel. Could set up a Zookeeper, although up against blue-white control, which is not our favorite matchup. Our opponent's gonna get lost Elves right away. Try Weaver. Can maybe use the map tokens to hit our lane drop. Our opponent's stuck on 2 mana as well. So they probably have a counter spell. If I try Sentinel. So maybe I should start by exploring. Found a land. And then sure, play Sentinel. That actually resolved. I I see. This could also be an artifacts deck, and then Starcage is probably happening next turn. So yeah, seems like a fine window for Zookeeper then. And then I could explore maybe onto the Sentinel. And yeah, opponent scoops it up. The Vigilance also plays around the Saw Blades, which they might have to deal 5 damage. So then Starcage doesn't really clean this mess up, and we're already attacking for 10, so next turn we would just have lethal. So yeah, sometimes Zookeeper, especially with Sentinel, can steal some pretty quick wins. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a functional hand. One more land or mana creature would be helpful. Can maybe find it with a Speaker, and then Zookeeper plus Ouroboros, the late game we want. Yeah, I don't hate Speaker, get Badger Mole, discard probably Nature's Rhythm, and then I can just cast the Badger Mole next turn and then still play a 4-drop. That would give us the most explosive start. Opponent mono white so far, the Aura deck. Okay. So, play Badger Mole. Could even make 1 extra mana with Speaker, untapping one of my elves here. So if they have Sheltered by Ghosts, that's the card we need to think about. What makes more sense? Could also now Rhythm again, or it could even Harmonize Rhythm, maybe getting another Badger Mole. So again, quite a few options available. What's my plan? I kind of want to be able to play Zookeeper and Ouroboros in the same turn if possible, so I don't really want to drip feed them into a removal spell. Although Ouroboros at least would leave some +1 counters behind. But I think we can do better. So yeah, maybe it is Harmonize Rhythm first instead of casting one. May as well. Get another mole. And then sure, we'll attack for 2. And then I'm happy if they use Sheltered by Ghosts on a cub instead of one of my 4s. Now Speaker can be +2 mana with double Badger Mole if we untap a land that has a +1 counter on it. Yep. Okay. What else do you have? A Survivor. Could maybe exile a Rhythm before we get to Harmonize it. So now I could see the benefit of getting another cub. A Rhythm for 2, get cub. And then these would both tap for 3. This is +2 mana as well. Whereas I would be able to do that right now. So yeah, maybe I shouldn't bother. Attack for 7. And if they Sheltered by Ghost or Ouroboros, we've got another one. My creatures are already quite large. So yeah, the ability from Speaker to untap another permanent is actually quite useful. And do they have another Sheltered by Ghosts? Ethereal Armor's not bad. And a Vendor, alright, so I think we're in the clear. Should be able to overpower the Aerialists with another Ouroboros coming up. So I could once again go Ouroboros plus a Zookeeper. And then I would have 3 attackers, which are all ginormous. Yeah, that seems pretty fun. I'll Although this might be overkill, I'm probably better off just attacking instead of tapping more creatures. And then we first want to resolve the big one, and then the small one. So then the small one's also quite big. And every single creature's lethal, so... yeah, that's the power of Zookeeper, alongside Ouroboros. With a bit of help from Badger Mole Cub, admittedly. Awesome. And we get to rank up here as well. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw with a functional hand. Facing blue-red with a Firebrand, so is it Pirates? Is it maybe some sort of Grim Captain deck? Could be Goblins. Alright, just blue-red aggro. Did not have any 1-toughness creatures for Firebrand to remove. Scalding Viper punishes or cheaper plays. At least Sentinel's a decent blocker. Boulder Dash deals with our Weaver, deals 1. Hopefully Sentinel can stabilize. And then double Ouroboros, a pretty nice top end. Don't care too much about the Squelcher. Can't afford to attack. And then the map tokens are also pretty nice with Ouroboros. If we have the spare mana, we can maybe grow it before it triggers, giving the entire team additional counters. Could see a Lightning Strike plus Firebrand take out Ouroboros. They're not going to be too happy if they have to use double Firebrand and a Burst Lightning. But it might be necessary, yeah. So then a second Ouroboros might be too much for them to handle. A land would have been perfect. Do I still go Ouroboros, or do I maybe play another Sentinel first? Maybe hit some extra land drops. Start here. Okay, now I don't mind going for Ouroboros. Nova Hellkites can fly over for 4. Yeah, if we had a draw with a couple Llanowar Elves, we might have been in a bit more trouble. But now we can go exploring onto Ouroboros. Would prefer a +1 counter now. Sentinel I can keep on top, just to guarantee an extra counter as we explore again. And then now I could get rid of it. So they have to chump the Sentinel at least. Opponent falls to 1. Yeah, I guess there's still some sequences that can kill me from 7. That one's not gonna do it. Alright, sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We have a functional hand. Have some graveyard hate for any of those decks. Which now also includes the Spelementals archetype, which is one of our worst matchups. But sometimes if we can clear their graveyard, we can maybe delay their creatures long enough. Blue-green with Vinestalk could still be kind of a classic Elementals deck, looking to evoke a bunch of creatures. Yep, with Ashling. So that's still pretty scary, since they do run Sunderflock. Although Zookeeper was a good draw. So if I Zookeeper, I get to untap Weaver, I can just attack as is. If I Rhythm for 2, I can still play Zookeeper afterwards. Don't hate that either. and smash. At 4 toughness, it survives the red-green evoke. But they could have Deceit. It's going to be a Roaming Throne to double their next triggers. So they now have a 4-mana elemental, so Sunderflock is still too expensive, and yeah, opponent just has to throw in the towel here. So yeah, we got to see this monogreen Zookeeper deck in action. Of course, the deck relies pretty heavily on the brokenness of Bantermole Cub and the power of Ouroboros to carry a lot of games, and then we still have the utility from Nature's Rhythm to find certain silver bullets in specific matchups, but it also gives us more reliable access to the Zookeeper, which in turn also plays very well with all the creatures in the deck, having at least 2 different types and not being humans, and then the Sentinel specifically having 3 types as well. So yeah, overall, if you're looking for a very proactive and pretty synergistic deck, this monogreen Zookeeper is not a bad choice. The main weakness is going to be to control strategies, especially blue-white and Jeskai control are not going to be your favorite matchups, since they tend to have a lot of board wipes to keep the board clear, and even with Passing Sig giving you a bit of late-game staying power, it's usually not quite enough to cross the finish line, but you can always hope for the best. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. Want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.